Hey guys, I'm going to help you with lesson 30's homework tonight, and if you hear my dog snoring in this video, I'm really sorry. I can't get him to leave my lap, so we're just going to have to deal. Alright, let's look at number 1. It says 4 1/3 plus 1/3. These are pretty easy because all you have to do is add the fractions together and keep your whole number, and you get 4 2/3. Now they're not always that easy because the fractions didn't add up to be something greater than 1, but it works on these. So we'll say 5 1/4 plus 2/4. Well, the 1/4 plus the 2/4 is 3/4. So altogether we get 5 3/4. Pretty easy. Same thing on C. 2 6 plus 4 6 gives you 6 6. Now there's something different. 6 6 is exactly equal to 1, so I can combine that 3 and that whole to get a total of 4. Okay, same thing on D. When I add the 5/8 and the 3/8, so if I add the fraction first, I get 8/8, which we know is a whole, so we can just add that whole back to that 7 that we already had to get a total of 8. Okay, now let's look down at number 2. Here we're filling in the blanks to make the number sentences correct. So, hold on, let me see if I can back out here. Zoom back in. Okay, on A, it says 3 5/6 plus blank equals 4. Well, what's going to push that 3 right over the edge to become a 4? All it's missing is 1/6, because if I add 1/6 to 5/6, I'll get a whole, which will be 3 plus another whole, which would give us 4. So let me show you. 6 6 would give us the next whole, and 1/6 is what we would need to fill in to push us to the next whole, because 1/6 plus the 5/6 would give us that whole. Alright, same thing on B. We have 5 3/7 and we want to equal 6. Well, what plus 3/7 will give us a whole so we can push it to 6? Well, what plus 3 gives you 7, and that would be 4. So 3/7 plus 4/7 gives you 7/7, which would give you the next whole. Okay, let's do the same thing on C. We have 4 1/8 plus what will give you 5. So again, we're trying to fill in that gap. 1/8 plus what gives you a whole? Well, that would be 7/8, because 1/8 plus 7/8 gives you a whole. Okay, same thing on D. We have 14 4/12, and we want to know what we can add to it to get to 15. Well, 4/12 plus what gives you a whole? And if we filled in that gap, it would be 8/12. 8/12 plus 4/12 gives you that next whole. Okay, now let's scroll down and look at number 3. The way that they show you in the traditional lesson, they show you several ways, and one of them is kind of confusing, and that's what they're asking you to do here. However you choose to solve it, as long as you're combining all the parts, you're good to go. So you don't have to do all this mess with the arrow if you don't feel like it. That's totally up to you and what your teacher showed you. So I'm going to show you the way that I did it with my kids. If you like that way, do it. If you don't, try it another way. So I'm going to cross out those instructions because you don't need them on number 3. And we don't need that bottom part with the arrows, because that'll confuse you if you don't want to use it. Okay, let's start off. Let's go ahead and do B since they solved A for us. We're going to have 3 2/3 plus 2/3. Well, the 2/3 plus 2/3 would give you 4/3. Now 3 4/3, we can't leave it like that because we've got a fraction greater than 1 in there. Well, 4/3 is the same thing as 1 1/3. So now I can go back and rewrite this as 3 plus that 1 1/3, which will end up giving us 4 1/3. We can do the same thing here on C with 4 4/6 plus 5/6. So you have 4 4/6 plus 5/6 would give you 4 9/6. Now 9/6 again is a fraction greater than 1, so we're going to have to change it. And 9/6 is the same thing as 1 3/6. If that transition isn't natural to you, you need to practice some more changing your fractions greater than 1 to mixed numbers that we learned last week. And so I'm going to say 4 plus that 1 3/6, because that was the 9/6 originally, now gives you 5 3/6. So really all I'm doing is adding the fractions first, changing that fraction greater than 1 to a mixed number, and adding it back to the whole. Okay, I'm going to cross out a few on here first. Oops. We'll cross out a few on here and then we'll keep going. So cross out G and H, we don't need those, and we don't need A either. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at B. It says 3 6/8 plus 4/8, and I'm going to do the same process here. 6/8 and 4/8 gives you 10/8. So really you have 3 10/8. And then we can't leave the 10/8 like it is, so we're going to rename it as a mixed number. And 10/8 is the same thing as 1 2/8. And so we're going to say 3 plus 1 2/8 up here is the same thing as 4 2/8. Okay, if we looked at C, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to combine my fractions. 4 6 plus 3 6 will give me 7 6. So your answer is technically 5 7 6, but we don't like that fraction greater than 1 there, so we're going to change that to 1 1 6 because they're equivalent. And I'm going to go back. And if you don't know how I did that again, I pulled out the 6 6 and the 1 6 to get 1 1 6. So I'm going to say 5 plus 1 1 6 will give you 6 1 6. Okay, let's look at D. Let's combine our fractions again. 7 tenths plus 6 tenths will give me 13 tenths. So I have 6 13 tenths. Well, 13 tenths as a mixed number is 1 3 tenths. So I'm going to rewrite it as 6 plus 1 3 tenths, which will really give me 7 3 tenths. Okay, let's look at E. We're going to combine the fractions again. 5 tenths and 9 tenths is going to give me 14 tenths. And so I'll have 8 14 tenths, but we don't like that big old fraction being with the whole number, so we're going to change 14 tenths to 1 4 tenths. So 8 plus 1 4 tenths will give you 9 4 tenths. Okay, and let's look at F. We're going to combine our fractions again. 8 plus 11 will give you 19 twelfths. So we have 7 19 twelfths. And when I change that 19 twelfths to a mixed number, I'm going to get 1 7 twelfths. Oops. 1 7 twelfths, once I can get it written. Okay. And then we'll put 7 plus 1 7 twelfths, which will give you 8 7 twelfths. Okay, that looks like that's all there is for this lesson's homework. If you have questions, please let me know. Thanks, guys.